Welcome to another edition of Down to the Wire. We have Colleen O'Hagan here, who is visiting, or I guess racing here from Saskatchewan. I'd been looking at some race lines, saw the name, stabled at Marquess Downs. I assume when the meet came over that you came and tried your horses here.
Yep, and I'm really enjoying it here.
Well, welcome to Century Downs and welcome to the show. I know you've got Rich Pelon paddocking horses for you, so you must be quite an influence. I don't know if it's your age or your looks or just the fact that you can control him, but good for you. The NHL couldn't control him.
Rich is a lot of help, actually. When I've been gone, he's saddled my horses for me, and I couldn't do it without him.
No, and that's the good part about this industry is people help each other, especially if you're coming to Calgary and it's a new circuit to you, and him a little bit as well. You were able to help each other, and that's a nice part about this industry. How many horses did you bring?
I brought 4, and I think Rich had about 6, so we ended up having about 10 in the barn.
That's enough, and especially for some of the weather that we've had this meet. We usually check and try and do a little bit of history on the interviewees here. So how did you get into this game? You already told me that the family isn't involved, which is usually the case in this industry. How did you get into horse racing and end up at Century Downs?
So I'm a little bit different. I'd never watched a horse race until I turned about 18, and a trainer had asked me to come and gallop some horses. So I came in that morning, never been to a racetrack, galloped a few horses, loved it. I was instantly hooked, and I think that's all I've done since then.
That's great. What does mom and dad think of that? Usually a young girl heading out to the racetrack isn't the formula for missing college and stuff. Are they on board with this?
Yeah, they are. They're probably my biggest fans, so I appreciate it.
Oh, that's great to hear. Now, I've heard a little bit about a special horse on this show. We've also tried to show the passion of the horse, which if anybody ever comes to the backstretch, grooms especially, there's 7 days a week. There's so much passion for the horse that if you're standing over in the grandstand just watching them, nobody understands that as much. But if you come to the back, there's so much passion. You've got a special horse. We've tried to tell people what some of these horses do after they're retired. Sure love to hear a little bit of this story.
So I acquired a horse named Mr. Chaos. I got him from Rob Chabot as a unraced 3-year-old. I raced him at Marquess Downs, and he did pretty well. He won his first couple starts by about 9 lengths, and then when it was finally time for him to finish racing, I decided I was going to give him another job and decided we were going to start jumping.
And that again is another useful part of the horse we've talked about, where the thoroughbreds and especially will be maybe chuck wagon horses. Standardbreds will go on to be trail riding horses, maybe jumpers as well. I also had read on an article that your horse was claimed, which is a little tough on people again when you've got such a passion. What did it mean for you to get that horse back?
Well, I knew the horse had an injury, and I kind of knew it was getting close to the end of his career. So when the other trainer claimed it, I just said, I think it's time for him to retire. I'm willing to buy him back. He's a favorite of mine, and the lady was very nice and agreeable, so it worked out.
That is good. So now you've got this horse back and you've trained him, and I think you've also got him into some other events. And tell us a little bit where he's probably taken you. You haven't taken him. I think it's getting to the point he's taken to you somewhere, so maybe you can tell us about that.
So we went down to Kentucky at the beginning of October. We went to the Thoroughbred Makeover. So basically there's about 500 horses or 500 entrants, and they retrain these horses. You have 9 months, and whether it be jumping or western or dressage, or some people do freestyles, and then you compete in this competition.
So when you call it a makeover and you mention the 9 months, can you take him back to that specific show, or do you have to start with another horse?
No, every year you need to have a new horse. The horse has to have a work in the previous year. They don't necessarily have to have ran, but they do have to have a work, and then you cannot sit on them until, I believe it's 9 or 10 months before the competition.
Wow, that's very interesting. Even from the article I read, I never knew that part of it. So there was 500 horses there. So basically 500 horses a year, assuming the show will be the same, are retrained from, are all thoroughbreds?
Yep, they have to be thoroughbreds.
So that's probably all parts of North America that those horses have shown up from, and that is just amazing. You need to find a sponsor.
Yeah, it was costly, but there's if you do well, there's over $100,000 in prize money, so you can make a lot of money back.
Let's go on the sponsorship part. Anybody out there wants to sponsor this young girl and the horses? That is a great story. So, is there anything in Canada similar to this?
There is going to be a makeover in Saskatoon. We have a equine expo in Saskatoon. It's usually the second or third weekend in February, and they're going to try it out for the first time this year.
So that would then, can you use this same horse again?
Yes, yeah, I can use this horse for that.
And that's because of the 9-month thing, as he still would fall into that category?
Yeah.
Well, that is a great story, folks. I didn't know that at all. Again, thoroughbreds are a wonderful animal. Come back here and see them anytime you want to see them. And Colleen would be the first one to show you in her stable and that. But to retrain a thoroughbred and to give it another purpose in life is just an absolutely thing. So if you can't, so I guess my next question would be those 500 horses that are now trained, they can't go to that show again next week or next year. They still are trained to be off-the-track racehorses.
Yeah, many of them are actually sold at the competition. They have a book, like a sales book. So many of them were adopted during the competition, after the competition. A lot of the trainers keep them as well too, which is what I plan to do.
And some of those horses could be your next stable pony horse then as well. So they've now been broken, they've now been trained. They will find a great home. I'd like to thank you for sharing that story with us. I certainly had my eyes opened. It's interesting that there's that many horses and that you cannot go back to the show the following year. So thank you for this information. Glad you're at Century Downs. Hope you come back to Century Downs and Century Mile. Nice to see young people in the game. Good luck, and good luck with trying to keep Rich Pelon on the narrow.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining us again. The thoroughbred season is quickly coming to an end. We will be continuing on with standardbred interviews. Look forward to seeing everybody at the standardbred meet starting in November.